Wow, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt pulling no punches regarding the obvious partisan behavior from the Department of Justice against President Trump. The latest example being a second judge on Thursday ordering the Trump administration to reinstate probationary workers who had been let go in mass firings across multiple agencies. I'm joined now by former Kentucky Attorney General and current Kentucky State Senate candidate, U.S. Senate candidate, Daniel Cameron, and former federal prosecutor, Newsmax contributor Doug Burns. Now, you both are my friends, so this is going to be a fun panel. Daniel, we've all heard of partisan witch hunts, but this is just ridiculous, in my opinion. I mean, the White House counsel, their office needs to work 24 hours a day just to fight the frivolous challenges that are facing them from the Justice Department alone. How can anything really get done at this point in time with a Justice Department that is so hell-bent on destroying President Trump, those buried deep within the agency?
Well, TW, it's always good to talk to you and be with your viewers. Look, this is incredibly ridiculous to see a federal district court judge in California try to stop an agenda that the American people overwhelmingly voted for. They voted for a president that was going to cut fraud, waste, and abuse, and that is what President Trump is trying to fulfill. It's disappointing to have this district court judge do something. And on the fact that these are probationary workers, look, they're not even subject to the full privileges of being a federal employee. So President Trump is certainly within his means and within presidential grounds and executive grounds to make a decision to cut these folks. I think he's doing the right thing. I hope that the president and his team will persevere. That's why, look, I want to be in the United States Senate to help President Trump and his agenda in making sure we make this country as great as it possibly can be. And again, it's disappointing to see these federal district court judges try to obviously stop the president's agenda from pushing forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it's just asinine to me to think that there is a private sector equivalency where a CEO can't even fire, people who are preliminary workers on probation. But Doug, now the New York Times is reporting that the Trump administration is considering restricting travel to the U.S. from as many as 43 countries, including Iran, Libya, North Korea, as well as Venezuela. What are your thoughts? Do you expect the same legal challenges from the left that we saw during President Trump's first attempt at a travel ban? Do you think this will be, broadcast as something very different than what it's really meant, which is, protecting the American people?
Well, I don't think I'm going to win any crystal ball awards in predicting that you'll see a hysterical meltdown once again. You'll see all kinds of segments about you're preventing wonderful valedictorians from coming to America, when in point of fact, no, we're trying to work on national security, national safety, border security, et cetera, and it'll flesh out. To your question, which I'm not avoiding, yeah, there'll be legal challenges. But at the same time, working off General Cameron, the president has a lot of executive authority.
You mean to tell me everybody that wants to come to our country isn't Mother Teresa? What are your thoughts on this, Daniel? I'd love to hear your thoughts as a former attorney general.
Yeah, well, TW, look, here in Kentucky, we have daily felt the impacts of opioid abuses, and largely because of fentanyl coming across a porous southern border. So I support President Trump in trying to build the wall, obviously, but also keeping out criminal and violent actors that might try to harm our communities. Again, I've seen over the course of my time as Attorney General the impact and the negative effect of fentanyl coming into this country. So I support this agenda. And to Doug's point, look, there's no question that Democrats and the far left will do everything they possibly can to stop the agenda of President Trump and to prevent him from getting the border secure. It's unfortunate, but this is a playbook that we've seen from the Democrats time and time again.
Doug, Daniel brought up the border, which is an important, measure of the Trump administration. What are some legal challenges you see to, Trump's measures to secure the border? And do you expect there to be legislation? There was much talk, Biden said it couldn't be done without legislation. Turns out we just needed a new president. Do you expect there to be legal challenges, what's been done so far? And are we going to see more legislation?
Well, they'll run into court, and possibly improperly. Because, by the way, quick segue on the business of firing workers, it doesn't even belong in federal court in the first instance. It's supposed to be with the Merit Systems Protection Board, right? Administrative agency first, then into court. Same thing here. But, it's such a cross-sectional thing about what we've been discussing, because you can do forum shopping, go to a particular court, get a nationwide injunction. It's just crazy town, but hopefully it'll be sorted out with the notion.
You're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Daniel, before we go, though, I would hate to miss this opportunity to touch on your Senate race. I mean, listen, we've seen some amazing, crazy antics in the Senate yesterday. Why in the world would anybody want to go to the U.S. Senate? And what would you do to restore order and unity in the face of such partisan politics?
Well, Kentucky needs new leadership in the United States Senate, and I want to help bring that leadership. I want to help promote and protect and preserve our constitutional rights and support President Trump's agenda. We need that sort of leadership that reflects the values of the men, women, and children of our 120 counties. And I want to go to Washington to fight and push back against DEI and ESG. I've had a career of doing it as Attorney General and in my space right now at 1792 Exchange. And I want to take that same attitude to Washington to make sure we have a colorblind society, one that is based on merit, excellence, and intelligence, not diversity, equity, and inclusion.
So good. Well, Daniel Cameron and Doug Burns, thank you both.
My pleasure.
Thank you.